All right, we are back. Welcome to another live episode of Handle Your Business, where we give women of color the tools they need to make impact and income with their ideas. I don't care if you're starting a business or building a brand or you want to get your Oprah on, we got you. And I am so excited to have with me Dawn Easter tonight. Hey, Dawn, how are you?
Yeah, I'm great, Shantavia. How are you?
I am doing so well, and I am so thrilled that you are here with me tonight to talk about something I know just enough about to be dangerous. And that thing is clients, getting good clients. And in particular, you call yourself an expert in client avatars. And I want to dig so deep into this because I am really intrigued by how you even decided that this was going to be the path. So, why don't we jump in and we can talk about you and about your business and just some thoughts and tips and advice you can offer for people who are just getting started who want to make sure they have that ideal client.
Absolutely.
So, um, I didn't mean to cut you off, Don, but one of the things that really intrigues me about your website is you
Mhm.
say your mission is to help women entrepreneurs empower themselves. And I'm wondering why you think having the right clients lets women entrepreneurs empower themselves.
Oh, absolutely. Because if you have the right clients, that is going to impact your business. Can you imagine building a business and or attempting to build a business and you're selling to the wrong people? And then once you sign on those clients that aren't the right fit for you or your business and what you're offering, it's like pulling teeth working with those people. And so I think that once women entrepreneurs get very clear about who they want to work with and why they want to work with those folks, it's going to make the business of being in business so much easier. And they will gain confidence because they know I'm working with the people that I've been called to work with, doing the work that I've been called to do. So, yeah, I think that's
Oh, I love that.
important. Yeah.
That is so smart. Okay, so say that last part again about doing what you're called to do and working with the people you want to work with. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's super important because our work in the world just isn't about us individually. It's about our communities and whether that community is literally our neighborhood or it's worldwide. We are going to create an impact and an imprint on other people. And we want that to be positive, right? I think most of us get into business because we want to be of service in some way. And I think to be the most effective that we can be in business, we have to work with the right people, doing the work that we were called to do, serving in the way that we've been called to serve. And that changes who we are as women, not just entrepreneurs, but women in general. When we are walking in our path, it absolutely changes our DNA in a way. You know what I mean? And I think that impacts our households. It empowers us, but it impacts our households. It impacts our families, our communities. Like it's a worldwide phenomenon. So, yeah, I think it's
Oh,
super.
that's so important. That is so important. So one of the things I hear a number of people, but in particular, I'm thinking about Minda Harts right now. She talks a lot about how women of color oftentimes are the breadwinners in their household. I've heard Rachel Rogers say the same thing multiple times. So when you're empowering women of color in particular to start a business where they have the right clients
Mhm.
and the clients that are not going to haggle with them over this, that, and the third, you really do change lives. You change
Mhm.
households and everything else. So that's dope. That's really dope. And you know what this makes me think of? I'm curious about how you define your ideal client or how you define what an ideal client is. Like to me, the ideal client is a person who's going to buy from you without complaining about the price, a
Mhm.
person who's going to be a repeat customer, and a person who's going to tell other people about the business, about me or about whoever the entrepreneur is. So, what about you? How do you define what an ideal customer actually is?
Right. So for me, I think an ideal client is someone that is going to be your biggest cheerleader. It's someone that has bought into not only you, excuse me, as an entrepreneur, as a brand, but they've bought into whatever your product or service is. So they almost become like an evangelist for it. And I think, I can't remember the person that wrote the article, but it's a 1,000 True Fans. And I'm sure a lot of your audience has heard about that before. If not, Google it. It's an article called 1,000 True Fans. And they talk about having a client avatar and building a community of client avatars, people who are most aligned with your business, and how they will continue to buy from you, like you were saying, repeat customers. They will buy almost everything you put out because they've bought into who you are. So I think that's really important aspect of having and identifying who your ideal client is someone that is going to resonate. You're going to resonate with them and they are going to support you long term. But it's also, there has to be it's a symbiotic relationship. It's not just what they're going to do for you, but also what you're able to do for them. So if you can't affect change and growth for them, they're not ideal for you. So I think all things come into play.
Oh man, that's good. So you actually have to deliver first before anybody can be ideal
Oh, yeah.
for you.
Yes, you absolutely have to deliver. Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love, love, love that sentiment. And like listening to you and thinking about like finding that one person who's going to do that and then replicating that to your point 1,000 times or 10,000 times or 100,000 times. The framework you use revolves around client avatars, which is a term I had never heard of until I started a business. My background is not in business or marketing or anything. So, can you explain a bit what the client avatar even is?
Sure. So a client avatar is really a persona. I think a lot of people, when they think about it, they think it's, a multitude of people, and it can start out that way, but really your client avatar is a singular person. And all of their characteristics and demographics and goals and values, it's one particular person. And so as you start to craft this and really discover who this person is, you refine it and refine it and refine it until you nail down who that particular person is. So it's really one person who is a reflection of a community of people that fit in with your business and your brand.
And this is a fictional person. You're not pulling a real person off the street. This is fictional. This is a person you make up or that
It
you
starts that
brainstorm about, right?
Yeah, I think it starts that way. I remember when I first started in business, and my background isn't in marketing either. And I was going through a business program, and a very famous business program by a female entrepreneur. And she had, this one module where she talked about, starting your business and your ideal target market. And she spent, I think, maybe 15 minutes talking about your ideal client. And I was like, that's it? Like, we're only talking about this major part of your business. Like, your avatar is the foundation of your business. If you don't get that persona right, everything else kind of, falls off in various ways. It is literally the frame of your house. And, she kind of glossed over that. And I noticed that was a hole that a lot of people were experiencing in their business courses. They weren't really talking about this and really showing people how to develop this particular aspect of their business. Because how can you sell a product or a service and you don't know who you're selling it to?
Ooh, so you just said a word there because I think a lot of people start a business in exactly that way, where
Yeah.
they think, oh, this is going to help everybody. So I don't
Yeah.
need one person because I want to sell to everybody on the planet. And I will say, I felt that way at first too. I didn't really know what an ideal client avatar or ideal customer avatar. I didn't know what any of that meant until about a decade ago. I was at a conference, a workshop. I had enrolled in this program by Marie Forleo. I went to New York for this. She used to have an event called Rich, Happy, and Hot Live or something like that.
I
And she
remember.
spent, okay, so you're familiar. So
Mhm.
they spent a ton of time at this event talking about customer avatars. And I will say, I thought it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard then
Right.
because it was such a foreign concept. And I was like, but I want to sell to everybody. Why would I focus on one person?
Mhm.
And I went back to my hotel room and they had given this homework to brainstorm an ideal client avatar. And they
Right.
had some prompts and some like various things to think about. And
Mhm.
this was literally when Hurricane Sandy was hitting the East Coast. And I had spent like all these hours working on it. I ended up having to evacuate the city. I spent all this time on the train thinking about my ideal client avatar as I'm like running away from Hurricane Sandy.
Oh my God.
But that exercise I did on the train and in
Mhm.
my hotel room before they made us all leave the city, made us leave Manhattan, is one of the most important things I've ever done. And so I love to hear you say that this is the foundation of your house because I don't think many people think of it that way.
No, I don't think so either. Like you were saying, a lot of people kind of have that thought of, I want to sell to everyone. And it's like, you really don't. You may think you want to sell to everyone, but you really don't want to sell to everyone. And you couldn't handle selling to everyone, right? And you have to start to think about who's a good fit for you and who are you really servicing and how are you helping them. So it's not everyone. It's a very specific type of person, depending on your business. And oftentimes, one of the questions I get asked the most is, well, is it just going to be one person? And I think for most businesses, yes, you have one particular avatar for that business. It doesn't mean I call it the halo effect, the people around that person that may resonate with certain characteristics won't be drawn to you, but it's really one person. Some businesses, as they grow, will have multiple avatars, but for the most part, it's one. It's
So,
one.
how do you start to identify this one person you're going to sell to? And how do you go from that one person to
Mhm.
thousands of people buying your products or your services or whatever you're selling?
That's a great question. So, what I think happens is in the beginning, it's kind of like that exercise that you did with Marie and her group. It's you start to think about who you think your person is. And that's the first step that I take my clients through is tell me everything you know about who you think your ideal client is. What's their name? Where are they from? What's their education? Are they married? Are they single? What's their ethnic background? What's their gender identity? Like all of those things that you think you know about this person, create a profile of that. And then once you have that profile, then we can start kind of digging into that to see if you're right? To see if your ideal client is really who you think it is, because it may be someone completely different. And I think when we start working on that, a lot of people can feel a little apprehensive because they don't have this robust persona that they thought they had. They didn't know as much about them as they thought they did. It's like, but this is what the work is about. It's finding all of those details out. If you knew everything, you wouldn't you wouldn't need me, right? So I think starting at who do I think this person is, their background information, where are they in their life? And one of the most important questions you can ask is, why are they seeking me out? What are they coming to me for and how can I help them?
Yeah, that is so very true. And like the things that you're talking about are so important. I imagine there's a lot more that you have to think about in terms of who your ideal client is. So,
Mhm.
can you just share like the top two or three questions? So, you just mentioned one important thing is why they're seeking you out. What are like two other things that are really important to think about, questions you should answer when you're identifying who this ideal client avatar is?
Sure. I think those questions, they're universal, but they will depend on what you're offering. So, where are they in their life? Are they a 20 something college student who is still trying to figure out what they want to major in, and haven't gotten to the point of graduation yet? Are they an entry level professional who's graduated college and is just starting in the world of work? Are they a mid-level professional? Are they a top tier C-suite executive? Like those are the types of things that you want to figure out. Who is this person and where are they in their life right now? And then also think about what is going on around them that they are not happy about. I think one of my mentors, when we talk about this, it's finding out what the fifth why is. What is the thing that's agitating them the most that they're trying to get an answer to? What is the thing that's keeping them up at night, that's bothering them? And your product or service may or may not have an impact on that, but you still need to know, like, what's going on in this person's life where they are right now. And I think Kanika, I'm hoping I'm saying your name right. She was saying that one of the things that people make the mistake of is they think about what their client can afford. And I agree with that. Like, don't necessarily price your product or service based on what you think they can do, but absolutely consider when you're creating this profile of your client avatar, what's going to appeal to them, because you have some folks who are not going to buy something if it's underpriced because they won't think it has any value. And I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of entrepreneurs overlook that. They're like, well, I don't want to make it too expensive. I don't want to make it out of reach. But some people, they're going to look at it and say, this is too good to be true. She or she is offering all of these things at this low price. It must not be effective. So really start to think about who your person is and what's going to appeal to them.
So, how do you know if you're right? So, you mentioned you walk your clients through these different exercises, and then you take a step back and say, am I actually right about this?
Right.
So, I didn't realize you could be wrong about your client avatar when you're thinking about who you really, really want to work with. So, I'm very intrigued by this. How do you know if you're right or wrong? And if you are wrong, how do you take a step back and figure out who the right person actually is?
Sure. This is one of the most difficult steps that entrepreneurs encounter with creating their client avatar is really verifying everything that they've assumed. So the first part of the avatar, when we talked about that profile, is the what I call the assumed avatar. It's who you think this person is. Then we go into the verify stage and you start to verify all of the assumptions that you've made about this person. And that requires research, and it's not something that you're going to figure out in a day, but it is a process that you will have to go through. You will have to start to investigate them, find out where they are online, stalk them. You need to be able to find no less than 10 people who are in alignment with this persona that you've created. And in that, you may start to find out things about them that you didn't even know that were important to them, characteristics about their lifestyle, their desires, their goals, their values. And those things are really important because those have impact on their buying decisions and where they are in their client process for them to say yes to you as an entrepreneur. So you have to verify all of that information. And it takes a little bit of time to do that. But I think that is one of the most critical steps that you can take once you have that assumed avatar, is to walk through a verification process.
So when you say find 10 people, are you finding these 10 people? Are they online? Are they other places? Because I think the other thing I struggled with, especially early on, was assuming that the people who follow me on social media are part of that ideal client avatar when they may not be, right? Like it's
Right,
mostly relatives or this or that, especially early on. So are
right.
these people always going to be following you on social, or how do you find those actual real people?
No, that's an amazing question. They're not always going to be following you on social media. They may not have even heard of you before. They may not even know that you exist yet, right? So, but that doesn't mean they aren't there. So, what you have to start to figure out is, if I have this person that I think is my ideal client, who are the people that are impacting their lives? Who are, if we, want to keep it online in the terms of social media, who are the people that are influencing them? Who are they following? Are they following Oprah? Are they following Gary Vaynerchuk? Are they following you? Like, who are the people that they're following that are influencing them, influencing their thoughts around where they spend their money, where they spend their free time, what they're watching, what's important to them, what is shaping their thoughts and ideas around the industry that you're in, if not necessarily your product or service or a similar product or service. It could be a company or organization that offers something very similar to yours. And that's who they're paying attention to stay up on that particular industry or that particular service. So it really just depends on what their matrix of influence is. And you have to figure that out.
Yeah, so I see in the comments somebody saying something very similar to you that when you survey your audience, Kanika mentioned this in the comments, you get demographic data, which is important. So all the stuff that makes a person who they are, like their
Absolutely.
age, their name, their all that. Then
Mhm,
there's also the psychographic stuff that you're talking about, who they're following, what they're liking, what groups they're in,
mhm,
and this and that. And I'm wondering, just in your work, are there any like things people may not think about that are really important data points. So for me, one thing I found is one of the things that tells me almost immediately if
mhm,
a person is going to vibe with me is
mhm.
certain television shows they watch. Because many people in
Absolutely.
my audience like certain types of content.
Mhm.
And I mean, it may be something benign like they love Insecure, or, there's a certain type of, I don't know, whatever that they like. But those are always people who are going to vibe with me. So I'm wondering if there are like little secret things like that or things you found that can
Yeah,
really be telltale signs for your ideal clients.
absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because for my particular client avatar, she is a huge Hallmark TV channel watcher and Lifetime TV channel watcher. If it's and we were talking earlier behind the scenes, one of the questions that I ask someone about their client avatar, it's 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. What is your client avatar doing? And can you answer that question very specifically? And most people can't. And that just simply means you haven't done enough research into who your person is. But 8 p.m. on a Saturday night, my person, Shayna, she's watching either Hallmark or Lifetime TV. Like that's what she does because she's a busy entrepreneur or corporate professional. She uses that to wind down at the end of her week. So it's mindless. She doesn't have to do a whole lot of thinking about it. She can just kind of sit back with a glass of wine and watch this and just decompress. Right. And so knowing those types of things about your ideal client avatar is super important. So, what are they watching? Do they have children? Because Shayna, she has kids, but her kids are of an age where they're not going to be needing her time and attention at 8 p.m. on Saturday. So, depending on the age, if they even have children at all, are they married or are they not married? Those type of questions are really important because it indicates what their behavior and their patterns might be. So I think those type of things are really super important. And they're details that, they're psychographic and demographic details, but it's things that people overlook, like where are they working and at what level are they in their profession? Because each level, new level, new devil, but it's true. It's like those things have an impact on who they are as a person and the decisions that they make, the types of stresses how much money does she make? It's a very different ball game for someone who's making $50,000 a year versus someone who's making 275. Those mindsets are completely different. So those type of things are important when trying to figure out who your client avatar is, and it will give you insight into their personality that you may not have before.
So, do you find that, particularly with women of color,
Mhm.
that their ideal clients oftentimes look like them or have very similar backgrounds to them?
Yes. And not just with women of color, most entrepreneurs think that way. They think
Mhm.
they're their own ideal client. And sometimes that can be the case, but usually that's not true.
Yeah, so that's where I was gonna go with that because listening to you describe Shayna, for example, and I remember the very first ideal client avatar I made for myself. I basically wrote about myself, and
Hmm.
it turned out that that was not really who my ideal client was. But I would just wonder why we do that, why we start out thinking this person is either an earlier version of me or exactly who I am now, but who just doesn't know what I know. Do you have any thoughts about that? Because I think so many people do this when they get started.
Yeah, I do. I think a lot of people pattern their client avatar after themselves. Like that's a common thing that most of us as entrepreneurs do. I think once we have a bit more skin in the game and have some experience in our business, we start to realize that who we thought our avatar is isn't necessarily that person. Like Shayna and I, are not alike at all. She is her own distinct personality, and we are so not alike, just lifestyle, demographics, those sorts of things. We aren't the same. But when I first started in business and coaching, I thought I was my ideal client maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
a few steps ahead of them. And the more I got into my business, I realized we aren't the same person. And so it changes how you deal with them, how you approach them. And I think Kanika was asking the question, does your online content have to align with your ideal client? Absolutely, 1,000%, because your online content is supposed to speak directly to her. If she or he can't identify with what you're putting out, you've lost them. So it absolutely has to be in alignment with who they are.
Yes, I'm glad you shifted to that because that was going to be my next question. Once you do all this research, once
Mm-hmm.
you have all this data, all
Mm-hmm.
these points that you've confirmed or figured out they're not part of your ideal customer avatar, client avatar,
Mm-hmm.
what do you do with all of it? Is it just now you create online content that speaks to that person? Is
Mm-hmm.
it that your website also directly speaks to that person? What do you do with all of this stuff once you research this person for several months or weeks or however long?
Sure. You want to use that information to shape everything that you do as it relates to your business, because your business is about this person. And I think, us as entrepreneurs, our businesses are our babies and we want to hold it kind of close, but we have to keep in mind that the business really isn't about us. It's about the person that we're wanting to work with. And so everything we do, from brand colors and font choices on a website, newsletters, social media content, all of that is about the person that we're trying to attract, because we're not selling to ourselves. We're selling and marketing to someone else. And we have to make sure that what we're putting out is going to resonate, and it has to resonate across all the channels that we're active on, from the website to the social media to emails, all of that. It has to be something that is going to draw them in over time. And some things may be more immediate, like social media, but your newsletters, those type of things are going to continue to nurture that relationship and draw them in. So it has to absolutely appeal to that person.
Yeah, so that's so important because your brand, like we like to think of our brands as being completely about us, but
Mm-hmm.
the brand isn't really just about you. It's what other people think about you, how other people perceive you, your reputation with other people.
Yes.
So it does have to be this symbiotic type of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned every decision you make once you know who this ideal client avatar is, every decision in your business involves that person in some
Mm-hmm.
way. What are the mistakes people make? Because it sounds like if this is the foundation, you want a solid
Mm-hmm.
foundation, but you don't always get it right the first time. I think I've had maybe three ideal client avatars over the past
Mm-hmm.
decade or so. So, what is your recommendation to folks if they make a mistake and they realize, I really hate working with Shayna and somebody else? How do you pivot? What do you do? Do you just throw everything away and start over from
Right.
scratch? What do you do?
I think when you find out that maybe your avatar or your ideal client isn't who you thought it was, and you make a mistake with something, I don't really call it a mistake. It is learning. So much about building a business is trying something and seeing if it works. And then if it does or it doesn't, you're pivoting and then trying again. I think I was talking with a friend of mine about social media and business and how it's changed the landscape of business. And one thing that we get caught up in with social media is that we think we try it one time and it's supposed to work. And rarely does that happen. Like, that's just not realistic. And it puts so much pressure on us as entrepreneurs, whether we're more seasoned or complete beginners, that we have to get it right the first time. No, we don't. You keep
Mm-hmm.
trying and you try and you try and you see and you observe what your people are saying back to you. I think one of the great things about social media is that it gives you almost an instant barometer about what's working and what's not working. Your email newsletters also are a great barometer of that. Are they opening them? If you put links in your emails, are they clicking on those links? Are they taking the actions that you've set up? And I think, with social media posts as well as newsletters or your emails, ask them questions and see if they respond.
Hmm.
In almost every post that you ask them to do something to see if they respond to it. And depending on the social media channel that you on, you may pose those call to actions in different ways, but you always want to try to get them to engage with you. And you can make pivots and moves based on, are they engaging? Are they responding? Are they paying attention at all? If I
Mm-hmm.
can open this today, what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I think when you have your client avatar and you start to get into the realm of advertising, it's critical that you know who this person is, because how you direct your advertising, you're going to use your client avatar almost solely on the targeting of that. So it's a dance, and it's a never ending dance. So if you make a mistake, you learned something from that, and then you just pivot in a different direction and you try again. Make a minute change. Maybe it's the color, maybe it's the font, maybe it's the call to action, maybe it's something you said, maybe it's the way you formatted your text. It could be so many different things. It may be the way you're wearing your hair that week. Like, it could be anything. And it's really interesting, but you just start to kind of pay attention to who your person is and then make changes from there.
So that's interesting, especially because, like what you were saying earlier, that oftentimes people think they need two, three, four, five, 12 different ideal clients.
Hmm.
And to have that many ideal clients and to do the type of self-reflection and research and digging that you're talking about, it would be impossible.
Right.
And so just listening to you just reiterates how important it is to me to really, really focus and niche down as much as possible. But what about people who say, I can't do that? I've got too many different types of people I want to sell to. I'm selling different products. I have different this or different that. How do you speak to people who think they really, really need more than one ideal client?
I think depending on your business, it may be viable for you to have multiple client avatars. For most people, it's not. Um, and also, your client avatar may change as time goes on. So, as you were asking that question, one person that popped up in my mind was Oprah Winfrey. When she first started her TV show, she had a particular client avatar. And it isn't who her client avatar is now. She's shifted. And you can see once she went over to her own network, who she was catering to with her content and the shows that she was putting on is completely different. Her audience, when she first went over to the network, kind of mirrored Tyler Perry's audience in a way. That is not who she was targeting when she had the Oprah Winfrey show. Completely different types of women, different age brackets, all of that. And the woman that was most tuned into the Oprah Winfrey show didn't follow her to own network. And she realized
Mm-hmm.
that, and she pivoted her content. If you look back to the beginning of her starting her own network, and then over the last few years, you'll notice it's a vastly different personality that she's catering to now. And that's okay. And the thing about that is, and it's a great lesson that I think a lot of entrepreneurs can look to, is look at these bigger brands and bigger personalities and look over the course of their business to see, have they changed and made shifts to who they're catering to. And you'll see most of them have, right? Your client avatar rarely is going to be the same person. They're going to grow and change, like your business grows and change, like you grow and change. Who I was at 20 is not the person that I am now in my 40s. We're completely different people. So, my interests have changed and what I'm looking for has changed. And so will be the same with your business. So I don't think you should get caught up in trying to appeal to everyone. You're never going to do that. So pick a person, work that person, and then if you see that you need to change, then absolutely pivot.
Oh, so I'm smiling right now because in the Branded Business Academy, one of the first exercises we do is about the growth of the Oprah Winfrey Network. And like I take screenshots from her early shows and we compare them to what she's doing now. And you're right, the folks who were watching like Tom Cruise jump up and down on the sofa about Katie,
Hmm.
whoever, I can't even remember her last name,
Yeah.
is a very different client or viewer from the people who are watching Tyler Perry shows and like Ready to Love and Eon Love Van
Mhm.
Zandt and everybody else on the OWN network. So I
Completely.
love that example.
Completely. It's a completely different type of person. She was smart enough to realize that versus digging her heels in and trying to get them to come. When she realized they weren't going to come, she completely shifted. And what it also let you know is that you may have this one type of person that you think is your ideal client, but there are going to be so many people around that particular person that resonate with certain characteristics that will be drawn to you, and they may not be a full in full alignment with your avatar, but that doesn't mean you can't do business with them or they won't want to work with you or buy your product or service. Absolutely. You have your academy where you have, the group of folks that you work with, but maybe if you have something that's one-on-one, it's a different type of client
Hmm.
avatar that's going to want to do that. Or maybe it's someone that wants a one-off course where they don't have any direct contact with you. And sometimes your avatars may go through all of those different channels, being, repeat clients in different ways because they resonate with you more and more. They need more and more from you. So I say find that one person, hone in on them, get very, very specific, and then grow and change as they grow and change.
All right, Dawn, you've given us everything to think about as it relates to your ideal clients and finding the right people. I have really, really enjoyed this conversation. You've given me a lot to think about too. I'm like making some mental notes about things. So thank you, thank you for sharing your expertise with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It has been my pleasure. Yeah,
Oh, this has been fun. It really has been fun.
absolutely.
So tell us, Dawn, how people can work with you, where people can find you, and how they can follow you.
Sure. So you can follow me. I am most active on Instagram at dawn.easter at Instagram, and it's Easter like the holiday. Also, you can find me on my website, dawneaster.com. And I right now am working one on one with clients who want to hone in on their client avatar. So if you are ready for that one on one work, we can absolutely get started there.
All right, y'all. If you have questions for Dawn, make sure you drop them in the comments below. Reach out to her on her website and come back. Well, actually, don't come back next week because I am celebrating my birthday next week. But
Yay!
the week
Happy
after that,
birthday!
thank you very much. This is a milestone birthday, so we're going to turn up next week. But come back in August for Handle Your Business Live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thank y'all for watching.